Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Norwich Talk, where Norwich City have just beaten Wycombe 2-1 in a very interesting game, to say the least. We're going to be delving a little bit deeper into our thoughts in this video. I'm going to call this a bite-sized podcast because I don't plan to go for as long as an hour, but I imagine we're going to get fairly carried away because there are plenty of talking points in that game to speak about. Of course, I'm not on my own for a match reaction. I'm here with the Reverian boys, Alfie and Billy. Chaps, how are we?
Very well, very well.
Yeah, maybe I don't know if I'm that well, but I'm here, so.
Well, we feel okay after another win, don't we? I just want to apologise for my audio to begin with. These guys have come and they've just sort of out-mic'd me, so they're already one up on me, aren't they? But that's not the important part of this video. The important part is the opinion. Now, I think the place to start is the lineup because Mario Vrancic, he came on against Birmingham. He saved the day, won the game. He's done it again, of course. But I'll come to you, Billy, first. What were your sort of opinions on the lineup? Did you expect to see Vrancic start, and were you sort of bothered when he didn't?
No, in all honesty, we know how Farke works, and it's all about building momentum for Norwich, and you do that by retaining the same 11 for as long as you have that opportunity. And Norwich had that opportunity. There was no injuries or suspensions, and they went into the game with the same team. It's something that we've been accustomed to sort of seeing from Farke over the last few years, and it was very much his approach in the Championship last time around, wasn't it? And I think he's going to do all he can to replicate that season as much as he can, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with you. I wasn't surprised to see Vrancic on the bench. I wasn't too upset either because before the season had even started, I remember saying that I just don't think he's as physical as I want Norwich to be this season. Now, it's annoying because it's not annoying because he's won another game. So I imagine at the end of the video, we're both going to or we're all going to agree on the fact he definitely should be starting against, is it Bristol City on next Saturday? It's Brentford on Tuesday, isn't it? Yeah. Dear me, that's poor for me, isn't it? But Alfie, are you in the same boat as me and Billy in terms of before the game?
Yeah, I wasn't really too honestly because I think you've got to remember as well the players that would have had to drop out in Skip and Rupp, and I think to be fair to them, it's not like they played horrendous against them, and I think statistically as well, midfield wise, we played really good. It was just, I guess, that kind of final third play, and I guess Mario was the one to unlock the door in the end, but I don't think it was a case of either one really deserved to drop out of the team. That was just my opinion on it, really.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think we can all pretty much agree on sort of the fact that he shouldn't really have started the game because Norwich's performance for the 80 minutes before he came on, or however long it was very good. That's slightly different to today, where I struggle to understand how a game starts so well, ends fairly poorly, but we still win. I can't quite wrap my head around that one yet. But guys, I'll come to you first, Alfie. What do we make of the first, I'll say 12 minutes, because Wycombe obviously equalised in the 13th. What did you make of the first 12? And did you get carried away?
Yes, we definitely got carried away. I think.
I don't think we even celebrated that first goal.
Yeah, to use some kind of quotes of things we would say, it was, let's call Ben now. We already know the end of the game result. Let's get the match review done.
It was a matter of how many as opposed to sort of.
I can't wait for us to score 5. I can't wait for Hugo to get a hat-trick. They were some of the things that are bad around the first 10, 15 minutes of the game. And I think that the kind of disbelief or there was more of a reaction to their goal than there was to our goal. I think that was like the shock behind it. We looked great though, first 10, 15 minutes, but I don't know if that's really like we're playing Wycombe, like all you've got to do is look down their front team, their first team, and no disrespect to them because obviously they've done a lot to get to where they are, but I mean, that's like a League 1, League 2 team, isn't it really? They've got a lot of fight, they've got a lot of desire, but that's about it, to be honest. So first 10 minutes was positive. Pukki took his goal fantastically. I mean, it's something we haven't seen from him for a little while where he just looks so composed. I think the keeper might have had a little slip or just allowed Pukki the opportunity, a couple extra seconds to set himself, and he knew he was going to put that over the keeper anyway. But no, it kind of went downhill after that, as we'll speak about, I'm sure, in a moment.
You know what? I definitely was also sat there. I did not celebrate the first goal either because it felt like it was coming. It was like, right, okay, Norwich City, we're finally going to get going. And you mentioned the sort of standard of opposition. I was thinking about saying they deserve to be here, but it was unexpected goals, wasn't it? And I think they were 8th before play didn't resume, sorry. But I don't get that whole situation. I don't like expected goals, etc., and expected wins. But definitely when you compare the teams, I mean, Norwich City should be winning that game. And as soon as Pukki scores, as you said, a really clinical goal, I was genuinely sat there thinking, right, what we're going to title today's match reaction.
Yeah.
And I was so ready to call it "Fuck, ball is back." It very much wasn't in that game, was it at all? But Billy, I've got a big question for you here. Just what on earth happened? Who are you blaming for that goal, for the equaliser?
Well, like I put this out on Twitter as well, but I've always said that Norwich are a different side when they're confident, and I think that's why I was so adamant that 3 wins from 3 this week was so important, because we know how good this Norwich side can be when they have confidence sort of flowing through their veins. But I think we probably saw the negative aspect of that, and actually an overconfidence and an arrogance. There was the goal, but there was also a host of opportunities, and we were carving them out at will. And it just felt like Norwich were just going to sit back, and it was all right. Hugo was probably going to think, I'll have a couple of goals. Todd probably fancied a couple of assists. Emmy was just going to run the show, and then all of a sudden, Grant Hanley makes an error, which isn't the first he's made, and it's 1-1, and all of a sudden it's a completely different game, and Wickham could smell the blood, couldn't they? And they went for us, and okay, yeah, we kept it at 1-1, but we struggled to sort of keep the ball and play out from the back. And like I say, for me, it just stinked of arrogance, and it just stinked of, it's only Wickham win Norwich City. We've been in the Premier League, we won this league before, and we all know that regardless of what level of opposition you're facing, really, that can always be quite problematic.
I'm not going to lie to you, Bill, that was far more potent than what I was expecting against sort of Norwich there. I don't know if it I don't know if it was arrogant. I think we just sort of looked a bit lost, didn't we? And do you know what annoys me is the fact that Norwich, when you look at a team like Birmingham, they've got to be clever, and they've got to play not differently, but a bit more aggressively to get through the defence. Whereas Wickham, they left themselves open time and time again, and Norwich couldn't really exploit that. And that's a little bit of an issue for me when we couldn't. We are very fortunate to have won that game, aren't we? But was there a point where, not just sort of in the old-fashioned Norwich way, but did you genuinely, Alfie, ever think that Norwich were maybe going to lose the game at any point?
I think there was a couple of occasions, especially after half-time, there's a really rough spell, I want to say from like 35 through to about 60, where we were just getting absolutely dominated. Like every time we got the ball, was 2 men on us, and we couldn't play around, because I think it was such high pressing with the 2 players that were, well, I mean, it was usually like Skip or Rupp, or even like Buendia and Todd in that kind of middle section. They were having a horrible time where they couldn't get their foot on the ball, and you felt like it was one of those times where, look, if we flicked one ball out wide, they've committed so many bodies forward, you're like, great, this actually could help us, but it didn't. And there was a lot of Jacobson corners which I kind of turned away at and thought, well, one of these is going to go in a second, and it did feel like that up until probably about the 70th, 75th minute, where we really started to I guess not show our kind of quality, but we started. I mean, players like Lucas Rupp come into the game a lot more. There was just a lot more positivity playing through the midfield. I thought Todd had a couple of nice turns. Adam Eder had a couple of nice little turns, and I don't know. I guess while he was on the pitch. I guess it was just a lot more positive. But like I say, there was that period of time for about 30 minutes, especially after half time, we just didn't react. And that was the only time I really felt like we might be in trouble.
Yeah, I was quite pleased to see Daniel Farke make the subs quite early for once. That was a pleasant change, wasn't it? I think Eder came on, 55 minutes odd, Vrancic sort of 66. And as you mentioned there, from sort of 70 onwards, so literally after Vrancic has come on, Norwich kicked on, took the game back to Wickham, which is what we should have been doing from the first minute to the 95th. Sadly, we didn't. Again, I'm just going to say, somehow we've won that game. I'm genuinely surprised that we've won that. But what are we putting down the... I want to say the 95th minute luck to, but do you forgive sort of the fact that it's a free kick because Norwich have created a few chances before, or are we just putting it down to luck?
Depends on your perspective, doesn't it? And you could probably apply that to all 3 games this week. Like, you can either look at that and go, Norwich are playing a different way. They're grinding out results. It's 3 from 3, Norwich are back. Or you can go, well, look at the facts of the last few, the 2 red cards previously, and obviously how hard we made it today as well. So it depends on your perspective. And to be honest, like, there's no probably right or wrong answer. It's just your opinion. I'm still not convinced, in all honesty. And I'm sure there'll be people there that think, Norwich are back, and I probably won't have much to sort of reply to that. But I don't know. I'm not at ease at the moment with how Norwich are playing. There's positive signs, but this week has been far too stressful as a Norwich fan. With all due respect to the sides we've been playing, like it just should have been far more comfortable.
Yeah, John, go on, Alfie.
No, I was just going to add to that. So I think it's tough because there's a very much a narrative around any kind of title winning campaign with Norwich that away got late goals in games is what wins it for us. You know, it's kind of the traditional Norwich way, and I think it's easy to get caught up and look at this and go, wow, 95, 88, 90 minutes, to win the game. Norwich is back, right? But we've played 3 teams that will probably finish in the bottom 10 teams. Maybe Birmingham might be the only team to exceed that, but the other 2 could genuinely be relegated this year. And I think it's tough because the real test is going to be this week when we face 2 top 6 teams away from home. That's really when I'm going to make my judgments. We've seen how we face against teams like Bournemouth, at my pardon, at the start of the season. And how obviously we kind of succumbed to that defeat. We've now had a little bit of time to get a bit of momentum, play some teams which I guess would favour ourselves against. But now I don't really want to judge whether or not Norwich are back off those 3 games. It's more about the next 2 for me.
Yeah, do you know what? Perspective's a key word from Billy there as well, in terms of how you sort of receive these 3 games, these 3 wins on the trot, because everyone before was saying we've got to win all 3. Norwich have won all 3, and I don't think I've seen too many people say Norwich are back. But my whole thing before the games, before Birmingham mainly, was that Daniel Farke is still shifting the mentality, and the fact that we've now won 3 games in a row in the last minute, sort of essentially, or very late on in games, suggests to me the mentality is changing. In terms of the football, I'm not totally convinced like you, Billy, because it's not brilliant throughout the entirety of the game. You can argue against Birmingham, it sort of was, but we didn't take chances, whatever. But yeah, I want to see sort of a game where we just dominate, win 2 or 3-0, and then that's sort of the kickstart for Norwich, then kick on and go and sort of, I'm not going to say replicate 18-19, but go on to perhaps contend for promotion. I don't know if you've noticed across these videos, my standards just decreasing slowly because of just it's just love as a Norwich fan, isn't it? I think I've got 2 more questions to put to you, so I'll let you guys decide which ones you want to answer each. But I want to talk a bit about the officiating standard of the game. I don't know if you noticed it, but it was diabolical today. And also Ida's red card, which I suppose actually links to the standard of officiating. But we'll start with the ref. What do we make of his performance today? Because for me, it was just shocking.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky one because tell sort of like holistically you want to look at this, but like officiating is a real big issue in football at the moment. Like regardless of the championship, like there is just a paucity of referees, and what that means is that unfortunately the championship just doesn't get good enough officiating. We actually said that, like, this is probably quite controversial, but actually maybe VAR would help that because those referees would have that support now. I'm not saying VAR should be implemented, but I think it's quite obvious now that unfortunately the officiating in England and as a result in the championship just isn't good enough because there just isn't enough refs. And I think, the officiating was abysmal. I don't know if you want to talk about the red card, Alfie, because
I was actually going to talk about first like a couple of moments in the first half which just had us with our heads in our hands. And
it applies for both teams. I
think that's the thing, right? Like when you're actually criticising a ref for making a decision which is helped you, that's when officiating is bad. Like there was a period of play where Ben Gibson makes a tackle which is a good tackle, somehow gets a yellow card, then from the resulting free kick makes a horrific tackle in terms of it was just so clumsy, should get a second yellow and a red, doesn't get anything. The guy then later on in that half goes down injured, doesn't get the physio on the pitch, then goes over, sits down and gets yellow carded for receiving treatment. And I think it just made no sense.
No.
I can't sum up why he did it, or
there's always a debate in refereeing as to whether like 2 wrongs make a right. Like what you have that moral decision, don't you? So for example, for the Ben Gibson one, it felt to me as if he didn't give the penalty because he knew that actually he probably made the error previously. Now, like I say, it raises a bigger question as to what's the right decision. Do you give Norwich one back, or do you make one mistake that game? But it's a tricky one because, like you say, you're talking about the referee's poor performance actually benefiting your side in moments.
Yeah, it's sort of one of them ones where you just wince when Norwich get a decision that they don't really deserve, and you just sort of like, you know how that feels. And I think the Gibson one, He's put that sort of tackle in with his left foot, isn't he? And it's come off the defender's arm. And I think the rest's been like deceived by just self-delusion at that point. I really don't understand it. Have you guys got any more thoughts on the actual game before we sort of take a little look ahead to Brentford?
Really, the substitutes is an interesting one because I think we probably said that they were the three players we wanted to come on, and not just because they're the three that have come off the bench and scored previously, but I think they're probably our three most deadly subs, if you want to put it like that. They're like they're most impactful, maybe. And I think it was interesting to see sort of Placater come out as almost like a wing back to Norwich, went to a back three with Emi Wente in defensive midfield, which isn't something I want to see too much more of. But I think the subs was certainly a positive, like in a weird way, because we know how frustrating at times that aspect of Farke's sort of management of games has been.
And genuinely as well on that point, I don't know the exact kind of stats or whatnot, but I remember on commentary Chris Scott mentioning it multiple times as well, that the impact that subs have made as well in previous games, a lot of time has resulted in goals or assists or I guess points that we've gained from it, which is nice because again, typically thinking under Daniel Farke last year as a criticism of him, it was his substitutes and whether they just didn't really impact the game or anything. So it's nice to see that he can positively influence the game, and as we mentioned earlier as well, a lot earlier with players like Adam Ida coming on. I think like one last thing I wanted to kind of touch on generally from like the last 3 games, but again seeing it through tonight, which I didn't know if that was just kind of me looking at this, but it's just how much of a shadow of our older selves that we looked in front of goal again. You think if we like this Wickham side the year we went up, would have absolutely murdered these. We could have scored 4 or 5 goals a night that year, and you're lucky to get 1 or 2. You're really scraping at the bottom of the barrel right now. And I think there was times in the game which I just wanted to highlight, which is Xavi Quintilla. And just the fact that he's literally like a machine for balls first time into the box.
He's like one of those training drill they have, aren't they?
I don't know if you caught that or anything, but I just felt like we were just pinging balls into the box aimlessly with just absolutely no direction.
That was a weird one because crossing has sort of been quite a controversial topic for Norwich because it's like Norwich want to be a little bit more versatile, but at the same time, like we've obviously criticised the sort of application of that at time, I suppose. And I think I don't want Norwich to get too reliant on that. Like we know Quintilla can cross the ball, but there wasn't really much support out wide because Todd was like tapering more centrally and playing in those pockets of space, which is where he's most sort of beneficial, I suppose, and productive. But like that does leave you short out wide unless there's runs off the man into those pockets of space and in those channels. But I don't want us to just resort on Xavi Quintilla lobbing the ball in the box to because we actually said, like, this is a bit of a side note, but we actually said we didn't really feel like Hugo was going to be as effective today because his strengths as a centre forward, like Wickham, are going to be used to that, aren't they? Like it's the more technical defenders that Hugo's going to have an advantage over, like especially in training. That the guy that comes off the bench of Wickham, like if they're preparing against him for Hugo, then they're going to be well accustomed to dealing with his threat. So it wasn't a surprise to see Hugo come off early, actually.
Yeah, I think it was good of Daniel Farke to sort of maybe suck it up and realise that hadn't worked. Definitely, I agree with what you said there about Jordan Hugill. He wasn't really suited to this game, was he? He's more suited to the, as you said, the more technical defenders who have less of an emphasis on physicality, we'll say. Just quick, the last thing I'm going to say, right, this isn't the question. I just want to say Ben Gibson wasn't great today, was he, at all? I don't know if it's just me who noticed that. I know Grant Hanley wasn't either. Just the whole back line were a little bit shaky for me today. And I'm going to put that down to fatigue and also the fact that I think maybe it's the first time that they've played against sort of a pressing front line as opposed to a team who are just going to sit back and they can literally just get the ball and do what they want. I noticed a lot less passes into Lucas Rupp today, mainly because they literally didn't have time to. But I think it's time to, I'm not going to say preview Brentford, but the man of the hour, Mario Vrancic, I don't really know if I'm going to ask, are you going to start him or not? Where are you starting him? What's his role in your starting 11 for Brentford?
I don't know. I
don't know if
I don't know. I think I would either. Sorry, Ben.
I gotta be honest.
Okay, go on.
The reason is because how many times we've been here in this position and gone, look at what Vrancic has done off the bench, and when he's not as impactful because those pockets of space and that midfield aren't there because basically the opposition midfielders have more energy. When the game opens up, Mario Vrancic can find his range a little bit, and also if you want Vrancic to start. Sorry to completely hog this question, by the way, but I thought I was going to be the only one here, so I was kind of like you're then having to take away Rupp, and I'm a big fan of Rupp. I'm not going to go over that again, but then you're looking for your maybe midfield change to be Lucas Ruff, and I don't know. I feel like I like having that option, and it's working well. So like it's a bit like the whole like wind back the years, like the old Ole Gunnar Solskjaer thing. Like he was just so good off the bench, and Vrancic for me just feels the same. Like I don't think he necessarily has the physicality to last a full 90 in midfield, and I really like him off the bench.
I think as well, one point worth mentioning again, and kind of what I mentioned to you earlier, is that again I don't feel like Skip and Rupp particularly deserve to be dropped. And I also think if this was maybe Brentford at home, I might have a slightly different, more kind of opinion in terms of we may have a bit more possession, a bit more ball dominant. I feel like that kind of goes in favour of Mario. But I think away from home, if you take a player like Skip out of the lineup, that's a big hole to fill when you're kind of filling that with a more attacking player. And then if you take Rupp out, then you're losing an engine in midfield for someone who's a little bit more, I guess, work rate rise. He's more likely to contribute going forward as opposed to coming back. So I think that's the only reason why I wouldn't. I don't think it's because I don't think Vrancic deserves to start, because I think he's, the reason why we've got 6 points now. The only thing is I just don't feel he's suited to start.
It's hard to see a way back from McLean at the moment, isn't it?
Oh, well.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you.
It's only game time.
I genuinely had forgotten about McLean until there was that shot of, I think it was the fourth official, and McLean's top was in the back. I was like, oh, Christ, yeah, he's in. I remember how much I was bigging him up before the season. But I completely forgot that Brentford lost today, and it was 3-0 for a good period, or 3-1 for a good period of the game. It finished 3-2 in the end, but their second goal was sort of in the 91st minute, and I can imagine that was a game that they weren't going to win. So this is going to be a Brentford team on Tuesday who are going to get in our faces again. I'm not going to lie to you guys have just completely convinced me that Vrancic probably shouldn't start the game. I'm very so well done for that. I'm very intrigued as to what maybe we'll never know this, but how sort of Mario Vrancic is taking this, and whether he's happy to be the man who comes on and impacts the game. Obviously, every footballer wants to play as many minutes as they can. And as you sort of compared to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer there, that's a brilliant comparison. I'd be very keen to know what he thinks about it all, and if he's happy to sort of be the man who comes on and saves the day, or finishes off a game or whatever, or if he does want to start the game and impact it from the off. I genuinely have absolutely no idea how he would receive that. I know, having played the game myself, I want to start every game. I'm sure it's the same for you guys when you've played football. You want to play every minute of every game, don't you? So that I honestly can't even begin to wrap my head around what he's probably feeling. But how are we feeling ahead of Brentford then? Just finally, are we nervous? Are we sort of discouraged by this performance, or do you see it as an opportunity for Norwich to sort of be hungry to bounce back and play a bit better?
I am nervous. I'm not going to lie. I think, again, as I kind of mentioned to you earlier, this is a Brentford side that genuinely will be there and thereabouts at the end of the season. And we've played 3 teams that are completely on the opposite end of the spectrum. I also think when you've got a player like Ivan Toney in the form he's been on, I don't know if he got the second goal today, but before that, I think he had 6 in 3 games or whatnot.
He's been doing well, yeah.
I think, especially with, I'm confident in Gibson, and I'm confident in Hanley individually in most scenarios. Them as a 2 right now, I still think there's some question marks around from what I've seen today. And I think it's going to be a real tough test for them. I don't know if it's going to be too soon. Obviously, we don't know yet if Zimmerman's going to be back and if he gets chucked into the mix. Personally, I just keep the same team. I think consistency, keep the same team. But my worries come more with the attacking threat that they possess. And our ability defensively to kind of handle that, if you like. Because right now, we're struggling to cope with, I don't even know the name of the striker that scored today. I can't remember.
I think, like, the thing I'd say is I'm a lot less nervous that Norwich now got 9 points from 3 games, because they've afforded themselves the opportunity to maybe not have to get that win. Yeah. You can afford Norwich maybe getting a point at Brentford, because you're looking at that sort of points tally from 4 games. If Norwich hadn't have been as successful from this week, then I think that the demand might be a little intense, because like you said, I agree. I think Brentford will be up there, and I think Ivan Toney is a threat, and they're a not well drilled side in almost like the opposite way that you'd usually apply that term in terms of how well they play and their tactical system. So yeah, I agree. It'll be a test, but I'm not necessarily going into this game thinking Norwich have to win, because I think they have probably allowed themselves the opportunity to maybe just get a point if they can.
They've given themselves a bit more breathing room, haven't they? And I think this game today will honestly put them in good stead for Brentford in terms of this idea of a team who press and are a bit more aggressive, because, you know, Norwich aren't going to play too many teams like that this season, are they? But guys, it's been good to have you on. This was a lot shorter than sort of your regular podcast, but I have absolutely no doubt we'll see your guys' faces on this channel sooner rather than later again. Who's taking lead of the socials this time? Where are we finding you?
Billy, definitely Billy.
Yeah, it's just at the Revere End, and that's across Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So make sure you go follow us on there. We're also on YouTube as well. So I'm sure Ben will leave the link. And if you want your podcasts audially, I don't know,
Via audio,
via your ears, then we're on Spotify and all the platforms as well. I promise I can speak better than that in the podcast, by the way.
And at least, to be fair, at least you got the handle right this time. I think last time I was on here, I gave the wrong handle away.
The word audially has almost just sort of melted my brain there. I don't really know. But the key question for you in the comments down below is, should Mario Vrancic be starting? I have a feeling that our opinions aren't going to be as popular as everybody else's just by looking at Twitter. Twitter's an interesting place. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. But make sure you like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That'd be very much appreciated. Guys, I'm sure I'll speak to you guys again very, very soon. So until next time, we'll see you again very soon.